Hello everyone and welcome back to a new video. It has been a little bit since I have filmed last and it feels like even longer. I think it's been about 3 weeks, but I don't know, the summer has been a very odd summer for me. It's been extremely busy. I haven't been able to film very much and reading has kind of slowed down as compared to May and June. It's just a busy season and hopefully things will kind of settle down once fall rolls around. That is my hope. But I am very happy with the books that I have been acquiring recently. The majority of them are used, and I also wanted to share some B-roll from the used bookstores I've been to in the last month or so, as well as an antique shop. So I'll take you along with me to those shops, and then afterwards I will share all the books that I have acquired. And as usual, if any of the books I mention are books you've read, I would love to know your thoughts as well. So please do let me know. But without further ado, let's go ahead and cut to the B-roll, and then we will talk about all the books that I have acquired. I'm honestly really happy with the books that I have been able to find at used bookstores in my area, as well as the antique shop. There were some definite gems and I'm really happy with the haul. It is a couple months worth of books. There are quite a lot, so I will try not to take too long getting through them. A couple of them are also secondhand, but I ordered them online from Ape Books. And then there are a few that I bought specifically because I really want to read them very soon. So we'll just go through them, and in no particular order. The first book here is The Absentee by Maria Edgeworth. And Maria Edgeworth wrote the more well-known book Belinda, which I actually just recently finished. And I overall thought it was interesting. I enjoyed it. It wasn't a favorite by any means, but I do want to read more by this author. She's an author that Jane Austen read and very much enjoyed. So I was very happy to find this at a used bookstore, and I don't want to know too much going in. As usual with some of these classics, I don't want to read too much from the back because it usually spoils big plot points. But the one little bit here says that it is a brilliantly comic novel of Irish life, its subject being the behavior and attitudes of an Irish land-owning family towards their tenants. So this should be interesting, and that is the first book. The next book here is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. This book I do own in another edition, and I'm not going to grab it, but it's one of the, I think it's Paper Mill classics, which they're really bright and colorful and fun and pretty, but I just don't really like reading from them. They're quite stiff, and I'm just being, I guess, very picky with that, but I do prefer a good floppy paperback. So I do also like to collect, when I can find them, the Penguin English Library edition, and I really, really love this, and I found it at a used bookstore in perfect condition. It's like it hasn't even been read, so I was very, very happy with this find, and I had to grab it. So that is A Tale of Two Cities, one Dickens I still have not yet read. And then the next one is another author that Jane Austen did read from, and that is Charlotte Lennox. And this is The Female Quixote, and I am very, very intrigued by this book. And in fact, I am reading currently Jane Austen's bookshelf. Wanted to read that in July, did not finish it, so it's a carryover. And this is one of the authors that the author of Jane Austen's bookshelf talks about as one of the authors Jane Austen would have read. And this book sounds really, really interesting to me, so I'm very, very intrigued. This is kind of like a retelling in a way of Don Quixote by Cervantes, but with a female named Arabella as the main character, and she reads books and they kind of make her picture things that aren't maybe really there. I don't know exactly how it's going to go. I haven't read Don Quixote in full, so I don't know if I want to maybe read that first and then read this. I'm not sure. I did try it and soft DNF'd it, but I am still very happy with this find. I also love the older World's Classics edition, so the Oxford World's Classics, and I love when I find books like this in the wild, which doesn't happen super, super often, so very, very happy with that find as well. I mentioned Jane Austen's Bookshelf by Rebecca Romney, and in that book, the author also talks about Frances Burney, and she's an author that I have enjoyed. I've read 2 books by her. I believe one was Camilla, which I thought was fine, but I really, really enjoyed her book Evelina. And Frances Burney just sounds like such an interesting person, especially the way that Rebecca Romney talked about her. And in the book, Jane Austen's Bookshelf, this biography is referenced, and it just sounds so great. So I really, really wanted to get a copy, and I did get this off of Abe Books. It's hard to find an affordable edition of some of these biographies, but I am really, really intrigued. I've only heard praise for this, not only by Rebecca Romney, but other reviews that I've read. This seems to be a very well-written biography, so I am intrigued, I'm excited, and I really, really wanted to grab this when I found it on Abe Books for a really, really good price as well. The other book I got from Abe Books is An Experiment in Criticism by C.S. Lewis. This is one of those books that intimidates me to no end, with as short as it is, and like it's short, it's less than 200 pages. Just the idea of literary criticism intimidates me, but I have heard nothing but praise for this, and the amount of times it's referenced by the hosts of the Literary Life podcast, just with that, I know that I have to read this book. I have to read this book. I want to read this book. I just don't know when that will be, but I grabbed a copy for, again, a very, very good price, and it just sounds so fascinating. It says, why do we read literature and how do we judge it? C.S. Lewis's classic Experiment in Criticism springs from the conviction that literature exists for the joy of the reader and that books should be judged by the kind of reading they invite. He argues that good reading, like moral action or religious experience, involves surrender to the work in hand and a process of entering fully into the opinions of others. In reading great literature, I become 1,000 men and yet remain myself. And it goes on. It just sounds so great. And I really, really want to read this at some point. So I did grab that as well. Then we have 100 Selected Stories by O. Henry. And This one I just grabbed because I have read one story by him, and it is the first story in this collection, The Gift of the Magi, and I enjoyed it. And I didn't know he wrote several other short stories, so I at some point will make my way through this collection. I'm not always a huge fan of short stories, but I guess if it depends, and I'm always willing to try a short story. So I'm really intrigued by this. It is quite a large collection, but again, I found it at a used bookstore and I had to grab it because it sounded interesting. And it is a beautiful edition as well. I love the older Wordsworth Classics editions. It says, the variety of the stories is amazing. O. Henry is as at home describing life south of the Rio Grande as he is chronicling the activities and concerns of the 4 million ordinary citizens who inhabited turn-of-the-century New York. They're marked by coincidence and surprise endings, as well as the compassion and high humor that have made O. Henry's stories popular for the last century. So that is very interesting. I also bought 3 books from a series that I found at an antique shop out of all places, and I just had to grab all 3 because they were all available. They did have more, but from a different edition. And I think if I enjoy the first 3, I'll continue collecting from this edition. I love the covers. But I got the first 3 books in this cozy mystery series. At least I think it's cozy, or I know it's a mystery series. I don't know how cozy it is, but it is the Brother Cadfael mystery series. And it is set in the 12th century in England, I believe. And it just sounds so interesting. So the first book is A Morbid Taste for Bones. It is by Ellis Peters, who I'm pretty sure was quite prolific. I don't know too much about her, but this just sounds so fascinating. I think Brother Cadfael is a monk, but it says that in this first chronicle, Brother Cadfael finds that his powers as a detective are more used than his skills as an herbalist. It looks like there's a murder that happens in this abbey, and it just sounds so great. And then the second book here is One Corpse Too Many. And then the third book here is Monk's Hood. I just love these covers so much, and these are in such great shape. They almost feel like they haven't been read either. Very good prices, and when I saw them at the antique shop, I had to grab all 3. I don't know if they'll be my thing, but I do like a good historical mystery, so I am very intrigued by these as well. We also have Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. I do think I had an edition of this book at some point and I unhauled it. And I am now looking back at some of the classics that I unhauled because I just thought they weren't for me. And I'm kind of regretting it. I want to at least give a book a try before I get rid of it. And this is one of my favorite editions. It's the Oxford World's Classics. Actually, it is my favorite classic edition, I would say. And I don't know if Gulliver's Travels will be for me, but I do want to try more 18th century literature. I think it was published in the 1720s. But yeah, I don't really know what to expect. The Oxford editions, the only thing I don't like is they tend to spoil things on the back, so will not be reading that. But I love this cover. It is so fun. And yeah, I was really happy to find this as well. So I also had to grab that. And then the last book from that antique shop that I grabbed is this Reader's Digest edition of The House of the Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne. I have yet to read anything by this author. I do think they also had an edition of The Scarlet Letter, but with The Scarlet Letter, I think I want to try to get a different edition of it. Either way, I am very happy to have found this. I haven't read anything by Nathaniel Hawthorne, but this one, it looks like there are illustrations. Some really beautiful ones as well. And dark green is actually my favorite color. This is kind of looking more blue, but it's dark green. My favorite color. I love the gold on the cover. It's just so beautiful and beautifully illustrated. Every beginning and end of chapter also has an illustration, just a little one there, but I don't know anything about this, and that is okay. I'm probably gonna go into it blind, but I want to read more classic American literature. Still need to try Nathaniel Hawthorne, amongst other authors, especially those that Louisa May Alcott knew. I'm really interested to try them out. So that is another find from that antique shop. I'm very happy with that one. Then we have some books that I got from the 2 used bookstores that I visited in the last few weeks, and one of them I do have store credit at, so I was able to use that. And the first book I got was Little Dorrit by Charles Dickens. I love the Wordsworth Classics editions. They are beautiful. The reason I got this one is because I have this edition of Little Dorrit. I don't like this edition. I've read another book from it. I don't even know what it is. The Premier Classics. I've read another book from this edition. I don't like the font, and I don't know. I don't like it. It's as simple as that. I don't like it. And I had free will and store credit, so I got this edition of Little Dorrit, which I like much more. And I don't know. I prefer the Wordsworth classics. It's so silly, but this, I can't. I don't even like the cover. This one I do. This one I'll enjoy picking up a lot more than this one. So this one can go, and this one is joining my book family. Then we have a couple of the Penguin classics, which I was really happy to find as well. First up is The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. And earlier this year, I filmed a video sharing some authors that I want to read. Authors that I have not yet read before and really, really want to. And H.G. Wells is one of them. And I just wasn't sure which one I would start with by him. I don't own any H.G. Wells stories, and so I guess this will be the first that I read, as it's the first that I've purchased, unless I don't get to it and I find more, but I do think I'm going to try this one first. So I don't want to know too much going in. I know it's kind of sci-fi and that sort of thing, which isn't always my favorite, but I am really, really curious about the original story. I was made more intrigued, I guess, by the series, and I'm completely blanking on the name of the series, but I'll put a picture of the first book here on the screen. The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter is the first book, and it's a group of girls basically that are all monstrous, and they're connected to different monsters from literature, whether that's Frankenstein's monster, one of them being Dr. Moreau from this book. So that just made me more intrigued, and I am really excited and was really happy to find this. So that is the first Penguin classic. And then I also found Sophocles, the 3 Theban plays. And I have heard that this is wild and gruesome and weird, and I don't know what to expect. But all I know is they are tragedies. So I am very, very, very excited. I do love plays, and I have never read an ancient Greek play. And I guess this is where I'll be starting. But that is the other Penguin classic that I found and was really happy about. Another book I've heard wonderful things about is, and I'm not sure how to pronounce the name. I've heard it pronounced Antonia, which is what I would normally say. But I've also heard people say Antonia, so I'm not sure. But this is a very, very well-beloved classic by Willa Cather. And I haven't read very many American classics, and besides like East of Eden and Little Women, I haven't read a lot of the great American classics, and I've heard so many people talking about this, and it sounds really interesting. It says it's the unforgettable story of an immigrant woman's life on the Nebraska plains, seen through the eyes of her childhood friend Jim Burden. The beautiful, free-spirited, wild-eyed girl captured Jim's imagination long ago and haunts him still. It's widely regarded as the author's finest novel. It's a moving and powerful depiction of love and a timeless portrait of a land and its people. The lush descriptions of rolling prairies interweave with the warm human tale of a community struggling with an unforgiving terrain in the early days of the 20th century. That sounds great. So that is my Antonia, not too sure. And then we have this gigantic brick of a book titled London by Edward Rutherford. And I have heard mixed things about this, but I do think that if I'm in the mood and I take my time, I don't rush it, this will be a book I really, really enjoy. It says, an invitation to embark on a magnificent journey through time, from the days of the Romans who founded London, through the building of the Tower, the signing of the Magna Carta, London Bridge, the courts of Henry VIII and Elizabeth I, right up to the present, to meet a colorful cast of characters whose lives and adventures bring London's story vividly to life. To witness a unique pageant unfold to reveal the heart and soul of one of the greatest cities on earth, to discover for the first time the real London, past and present. I am so intrigued. So I think it's just basically the story of London as a city, and it's just so interesting. It's got maps, and I'm very intrigued. Like I said, I have heard mixed things, but overall it seems to be like the type of book that if you're fascinated and interested in English history, British history in particular, which I am. And in fact, I've been doing this for the last couple of years, just you know, when I have time and when I can, you know, sit down and research and have the mental energy for it. But I've been very slowly making my way through all the different kings of England, kings and queens, and just royal history, because I'm very interested in it and know very little. And with that comes kind of, you know, big events in British history. And so I've kind of gone back to the beginning, and I've moved through the Roman conquest, and I'm now moving into the Saxons and the Anglo-Saxons and everything. And I think it would be really interesting, as I'm doing my research, just for the fun of it, to read this alongside that. But I am very excited about this book, and I do believe he's also written one on Russia, if I'm not mistaken. I can't find a list of his other books, but anyways, this is huge and slightly intimidating, but I am excited. And I think I'm gonna have to put that at the very bottom. Now, this next book I did treat myself to because it is my current favorite book by Charles Dickens. And I do have an edition that I read from, the Penguin Black Spine edition. But when I saw this gorgeous edition of my favorite book currently by Charles Dickens, I had to have it. And it is this beautiful edition of Dombey and Son. I am obsessed. It did come in this sleeve here. I'm just in love. I'm in love with this. Oh my gosh, I love it. It is from the Heritage Press in Connecticut, and it does have illustrations throughout. And there's just that first inside cover illustration, which is colored, and I love that. And this edition is copyright 1957, which makes me very excited as well. I love older editions of books. There are illustrations at the beginning of each chapter, and then throughout there are full color illustrations as well. I am just so excited about this book, and the next time that I read Dombey and Son, it will definitely be from this edition. I was so happy when I saw it. Here is another beautiful illustration. The previous owner of the book also had a little plate in there with his name, and I love that sticker so much. It is a sticker plate, but anyways, I will now add my own stamp with my name to it. I'm just so excited about this, and it was such a reasonable price for an edition from the 50s, which I just love it. I'm so happy. So that is my little treat to myself. But with everything else, I did use store credit, and a lot of these were very good prices, but that is my very, very special find, which I'm so excited about it, and I will put this at the bottom as well. Then we have another thrifted book, which is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante, and this I know is an Italian classic and well beloved, and a couple people who have read it and adored it. I do trust their reviews, so I was really happy to also find this thrifted. But it says it begins in the 1950s. It is the story of Elena and Lila, I believe, living in a poor but vibrant neighborhood on the outskirts of Naples, and it's just their coming of age story. And I believe there are 4 books in this series as well. I'm not sure if it'll be the book for me, but I don't know. I've heard some amazing things, so I have very high hopes for it. I am very, very intrigued. I'm very excited to try this as well. But yeah, that is My Brilliant Friend. Very, very interested in that one. I don't recall if I shared this in my last book haul. I don't think I did. But I did get the Elizabeth Gaskell biography by Jenny Uglow, and I believe it's quite literally the only like big Gaskell biography out there. But with how much I love Elizabeth Gaskell as an author, I need to know about her life. So I am very, very excited about this edition. It's got some illustrated plates in there, and I've heard that this is a wonderful biography, so have very high hopes for that as well. I have 2 books here that I shared in my video back in June on the Shakespeare play that I read and got to see performed. And I shared that I got this book, which is the Sonnets and Narrative Poems of Shakespeare, but just wanted to mention that as well. It's from the Everyman's Library edition, which I don't own anything else by, I don't believe, but very, very excited for that. And then I got the Divine Comedy by Dante. This one I do plan on starting this month for this challenge that is put on by, I'm blanking on the name of the university, but it is 100 days of Dante. So I will be reading through this in 100 days, this book in its entirety. I'm very, very excited. But because I'm starting this and I'm new to the Divine Comedy, I know very little about it. and I'm very intimidated. I did decide to pick up A Beginner's Guide to Dante's Divine Comedy by Jason M. Baxter. And Jason Baxter, he is a professor of the fine arts and humanities, and I think he also works with the House of Humane Letters, which I've talked a lot about the Literary Life podcast, but the hosts of that podcast, they have the House of Humane Letters, and they have like courses and everything. It's an amazing resource for a literary education type of thing. So this book, I heard of it through them, and I've heard it is absolutely fantastic, and it's not too long as well, which I think is great. So it seems to be quite concise, but I am very, very intrigued, very excited, and I feel like I'll be less intimidated to start this beast with this alongside the book. So also wanted to share those. The Literary Life podcast is also going to be putting out episodes on The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton based on their uploading schedule. I believe the first episode will come out, I think this week actually. But The Age of Innocence is a book I've been wanting to read for a while, especially after reading Ethan Frome by this author, and I did not have an edition of it, so I picked this up, and I don't know if I'll start it this month with the podcast, but I do want to read it at least this fall. If I don't get to it this month in September, I do want to read it by the end of the year, and it's not very long either, but I'm gonna go in not knowing anything. That is how I want to start my read of this book, knowing very little. So that is The Age of Innocence. So something that I am very, very much a fan of is books that have very elegant spines. And let me just grab a couple. Like these editions of Pride and Prejudice and Great Expectations. Like I love kind of more vintage spines like this that would fit in a beautiful library. Or this edition of The Death of Arthur. I love it so much. And I love like the browns and the reds and the blacks. And I am going to be getting a new bookshelf because frankly, I buy too many books and I need more shelf space, which I don't have. So I'll be buying a smaller bookshelf just to put in another area of the room. And I want to have it kind of give off dark academia vibes because why not? And that is what I love and it will bring me joy. But with that, I want to have as many books with those spines and kind of that, I guess, more vintage feel. I just want to have as many of those books as I can and just make it beautiful, to just make it aesthetically pleasing. And I have heard amazing things about this next book, and I got this edition first of all because it's beautiful. And I'm talking about Bulfinch's Mythology, and it is by Thomas Bulfinch. He's basically compiled mythology from around the world in this really, really fun edition. And I love it. It has The Age of Fable, The Age of Chivalry, and Legends of Charlemagne. So it is his three main works, and then all compiled into this volume. And it has a beautiful, beautiful spine. And this was $20 for a beautiful hardcover edition. I could not pass it up. It says $33.99 on the sticker, but Amazon had it for $20, so I had to grab it. I was very, very excited with this find. And then I realized that part of it is actually slightly abridged. And so I was like, well, I'm not a fan. I'm gonna return it. And I got this edition, which is not abridged at all. And it's much longer as well. It has more, I think a couple hundred more pages. And it was inexpensive. So I bought this one with the intent to return this. I have not returned it because it was inexpensive and it is beautiful and I want to keep it because why not? So now I have two editions of a book that I don't need, but this one is going to look beautiful on my shelves and I will use this one in a more scholarly way with notes and everything and tabs as needed. So anyways, I have free will and that's what I did with it. And I also wanted to mention actually, the reason I bought this was because my lovely friend Shannon from Old American Spirit, she and I have been reading I think it's the Secrets of Ormdale series by Christina Bear, the cozy fantasy series, Victorian era with dragons. It is just wonderful. And it has so many literary references and allusions to different myths. And I'm just coming across so much mythology in a lot of the classics I'm reading. And I don't know the origin stories. And Shannon recently completed Bulfinch's Mythology, and she was saying that it's a great resource, basically. So I really, really wanted to grab it, and I think it will be invaluable to my reading of a lot of the classics I'm reading. So it is a Shannon influence, we shall say, but I'm very, very happy with those finds. And then the next book that I got because I have books, I think 1 to 6 or 1 to 7 in the series, minus book 4. So I did not have this edition, and I have not been able to find it at any used bookstore, any thrift store. The other books in this series that I own, I got them all thrifted, was very happy with that. But this book, I couldn't find it. I've been looking for the last couple of years actually. And I'm talking about Warlegan by Winston Graham. This is book 4 in the Poldark series. If you've not read the Poldark series or watched the TV series, I highly recommend. It is just so, so great. It is set at the end of the 18th century, after the main character returns from fighting in the Revolutionary War in America, obviously on the British side. He comes back to Cornwall. Everything that he knew is completely upended. His life is upended, and he has to basically start from scratch, and it is just so phenomenal. I love Ross and I love his story, and I just recently finished Jeremy Poldark, which is book 3. I read that in July. And I am hopeful that I will get to Warlegan very soon in the next couple of months, because I just love the series and it's been taking me way too long to get through the books. I'm now rewatching the TV series for like the 4th time, so I do love it. I just need to pick up the pace with reading the books, but that is book 4. Then we have A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr, and this book was definitely a Miranda Mills influence. She recently shared a post, I believe on Instagram, with some book recommendations she had for August. And she was saying that this is a really great one to read towards the end of the summer, as it kind of has that, you know, summer is coming to an end atmosphere. And it is set in England with this gentleman, this young man who has come back from fighting in the Great War. So it is just after the Great War. He's dealing with PTSD. He's given a job to restore this medieval mural that was found in a church in Yorkshire. And so he goes and he starts, and I am only really just a little bit in. I haven't read very much, but I'm already loving the writing so much, and I have heard just fantastic things about this slim little book, that it really packs a punch, and I'm very much enjoying it so far. So that was definitely a Miranda Mills influence, and as soon as I read what it was about and that this is the perfect time of year to read it, my mood told me that I need to have this book. So I purchased it, and I'm glad that I did. I'm very much enjoying it. So I have 2 more books to share here, both by the same author, and I'm talking about Rosamund Pilcher. We have The Shell Seekers and September. And I do really hope to start The Shell Seekers soon. I'm not sure when I will get to it, just because life has been busy, but I really, really loved her book, Winter Solstice, and I can't believe it's taken me this long. It's been years since I've read it. It's taken me this long to read something else by her. So this is a must read for the end of the summer, and then I will get to September whenever I get to it. So I grabbed these. I had points with one of my local bookstores here, and I'm very happy that I did, and I'm very, very excited and hopeful that these will be favorites the way that Winter Solstice is. But anyways, these were the last 2 books of this large book haul. There are a lot of books here, but I am very happy with the number that were thrifted. That always makes me very happy, finding books just at thrift stores, used bookstores. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Please do let me know again if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts were, if you feel like there are some books that I should read sooner rather than later. It will definitely be an encouragement for me to prioritize what I read next. So please do let me know your thoughts on these books if you have read them. But friends, that is it for this video. Thank you so, so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.